Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another part of my storytelling series. Here in a minute, Karma will probably be coming in. I'm not sure, but there's a good chance that it'll happen. I haven't seen her pop up in chat yet, so with that being said, I don't know. But what I am going to do is start the stream. When she comes in, I'll tell her to say hi to everybody. Today is going to be different from what I've been doing. I've been going over my short story and the outlines and the outline and I have been going over the outline and the plot. So hello.
Hi.
How you doing? I just started. It's recording now, so
I was in the shower.
I know. I just figured I'd let you know so you knew that
Okay.
we're recording. You want to say hi?
What did you say?
You want to say hello?
Oh, hi everyone. Hi. I apologize. I was distracted. He was about to throw a whole cup of milk in the trash, not even pour it in the sink. And I'm like, no, don't you not do that. It's like a mess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So I had to stop that before it even started. But anyway, we're back on track now.
No. Today, I'm gonna do something. I was already discussing the fact that I'd already done my first short story.
Yeah.
And I covered the plot and the outline and the actual story, the rough draft, or the rough draft of the rough draft. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hold on that so that I can put more content into it before I start doing that. And we don't have anybody to tell a story today, or tell their story. So what I want to do is something else that I've been wanting to do with this series, and it's go through like the story of famous writers in the past and the present and stuff like that.
Nice.
So the
We
first
should do
one.
Edgar Allan Poe. He's one of my most favorite writers.
Now he kind of jumps into this group of writers that I'm talking about. But the first one I want to start out with is Walt Whitman.
Right. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Now, I'm going to say that he's probably the most controversial writer of pretty much anybody's time and outspoken and I know that sounds weird hearing that because the first thing anybody ever thinks is Samuel Clemens or Mark Twain, right? But if you don't know about Walt Whitman, then you wouldn't understand why I'd say he's the most controversial and outspoken. But
yeah, the bridge in Philly.
Yeah, and he actually worked under Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens when he was doing his whole printing press days. So he had a chance to work with him and everything, and the things that he was involved in is pretty interesting if you actually learn about his life story. So
yeah, no, I never even indulged.
So now today I'm gonna let you take a break and I'll do the reading because I got all of it on my notebook.
Thank you.
You said thank you.
That's great. I like to listen. I was going to ask you if I could have a listening day because I'm going to listen and be attentive, but I'm going to exercise some multitasking in the process. It's probably my only time that I'll be able to.
I just like how you said thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Not gonna hear any complaints from me.
Okay. So, let me start out now, and we can go into it. I can share my notes with you, but I don't know if you can get on Notepad.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Or notebook. I mean, it's for Microsoft.
Oh no! See, I have Mac. I don't know.
All
You don't
right.
have to share them. I'm gonna
All
listen, and I'll ask questions if I have some.
Okay. So Walt Whitman was born on May 31st, 1890. He was born in West Hills town of Huntington, Long Island, New York. He died on the 26th of 1892 at the age of 72. Now,
The 26th of what?
The 26th of 1892.
What day? What month?
March the 26th.
Okay.
Now, and he died in Camden, New Jersey. That would be why the bridge was erected in New Jersey. So, now, Walt Whitman was an American poet, an essayist, a journalist, and a humanist. He was a part of the transition between transcendentalism and realism. Now, before we go any further, I did want to kind of go over transcendentalism and realism, because like people will get the word realism mixed up with when it comes to terms. Now, in the art world, there's a difference between realism there compared to realism in philosophy and social sciences. Now, there's a whole lot of references in philosophy, from aesthetic realism, which is metaphysics and stuff like that, and then ethnographic realism with social sciences, but I don't want to get into that. I'm just going to focus on what it means in the arts. Okay? So,
Okay.
realism in the arts is the general attempt to depict subjects truthfully in different forms of the art. Art movements related to realism includes classical realism, literary realism, neo-realism in art, new realism, realism, which is a art movement, and then Vienna School of Fantastic Realism, which I don't even know what that is, and then Socialist Realism, and I don't even want to get into that. So that's where it all...
You stop with socialism, huh?
Yeah, Socialist Realism. It's an art style developed in the Soviet Union. That's pretty much the best way of saying it. But what I want to focus on is the literary realism. It's a movement from the mid-19th to the early 20th century. Now, it says literary realism is a literary genre, part of the broader realism in art that attempts to represent subject matter truthfully, avoiding speculative fiction and supernatural elements. It originated with the realist art movement that began within the mid-19th century French literature and Russian literature. So that is what they're referring to right there. And transcendentalism is pretty interesting. I actually did more research on this, and later on in another video we could go over this more thorough, but I just wanted to kind of give the first couple paragraphs as a reference to it. Now,
Okay, I'm listening. I'm just the background's going to be loud, so I just got to mute it.
All right. Transcendentalism is a philosophical, spiritual, and literary movement that developed in the late 1820s and 1830s in the New England region of the United States. A core belief is in the inherent goodness of people and nature. And while society and its institutions have corrupted the purity of the individual, people are at their best when truly self-reliant and independent. Transcendentalists saw divine experience inherent in the everyday rather than believing in a distant heaven. Transcendentalists saw physical and spiritual phenomena as a part of dynamic processes rather than discrete entities. Transcendentalism is one of the first philosophical currents that emerged in the United States. It is therefore a key early point in the history of American philosophy, emphasizing subjective intuition over objective empiricism. Its adherents believe that individuals are capable of generating completely original insights with little attention and differences to past masters. It arose as a reaction to protest against the general state of intellectualism and spirituality at the time. The doctrine of the Unitarian Church, as taught at Harvard Divinity School, was closely related. Transcendentalism emerged from English and German Romanticism and biblical criticism of Johann Gottfried Herder and Friedrich Schleiermacher, the skepticism of David Hume, and the transcendental philosophy of Immanuel Kant, and German idealism. Perry Miller and Arthur Versluis regard Emanuel Swedenborg and Jacob Boehme as pervasive influences on transcendentalism. It was also strongly influenced by Hindu texts on philosophy of the mind and spirituality, especially the Upanishads, Upanishads, or whatever that is. So that's basically what the thing is with the transcendentalism and the realism. I just wanted to focus on the literary term for, realism, which was basically trying to find the truth in it without any kind of fiction or, stuff like that. That's what they were basically into. So, Walt Whitman was more of that kind of person. He was moving from the transcendentalism movement into the literary realism of the time. So he had friends like Emerson. I don't know if you ever heard of him or not, Karma. But
yeah, I heard of Emerson.
He was friends with
James Emerson, right? Was it James?
Yeah, I believe so. He was friends with him. He tried his best to be a part of the Transcendentalists, but they really didn't like how openly he discussed sexuality, and that kind of turned him off to the idea of him being a part of their group. So Emerson always tried to tell him, you need to take it easy on that and everything, but he just would not give up on the whole sexuality thing when it came to what he believed in and stuff. So, and I'll get into that here in a minute, but I just wanted to point that out with the transcendentalism and the realism. Now, where we left off, he was an American poet, essayist, journalist, and humanist. He was part of the transition between transcendentalism and realism, incorporating both views in his work. Whitman is among the most influential poets in the American canon, often called the father of free verse. Now, free verse is one of the things that really caught my attention with Walt Whitman, because you know how we've been going over like plots and or the plot of a story and the outlines of a story.
Yeah.
Well, free verse is where you don't have to do any of that. You can just sit down with a pen. You can write out a story perfect without even having to outline it, without having to come up with a plot. You can just do it right off the top of your head.
Oh, that's neat.
So that was one of the reasons that I became attracted to the idea of reading about Walt Whitman. And there's other things that are really interested about his story too, so I'll get onto that. But first I want to read what the wiki says about free verse.
Sure.
Free verse is an open form of poetry, which in its modern form arose through the French vers libre form. It does not use consistent meter patterns, rhyme, or any musical pattern. It thus tends to follow the rhythm of natural speech. Now, definition: free verse does not proceed by a strict set of rules. It is not a literary type and does not conform to a formal structure. It is not considered to be completely free. In 1948, Charles Allen wrote, "The only freedom cadenced verse the only freedom cadenced verse obtains is a limited freedom from the tight demands of the metered line." Free verse contains some elements of form, including the poetical line, which may vary freely, rhythm, strophes or strophic rhythms, stanzic patterns, and rhythmic units are cadences. It is said that verse is free when it is not primarily obtained by the metered line. And Donald Hall goes as far as to say that the form of free verse is as binding and as liberated from the form of rondeau and T.S. Eliot wrote, "No verse is free for the man who wants to do a good job." So that's basically what it is. And like if you get into the whole thing with free verse too, you'll find a lot of good goodies when it comes to a lot of these writers, because like there's a lot of things that I didn't know until I started checking this out. Like I didn't know that Emerson and oh god, you just mentioned him. I'm having a brain fart. What was his name?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe and Emerson didn't get along. They actually despised one another, and I didn't know it until I started checking up on this stuff right here. Edgar Allan Poe called Emerson used to call Edgar Allan Poe the Jingle Man because he considered his poems to be jingles. And Edgar Allan Poe would get mad and freaking write correspondences criticizing his writing too, so they were always at odds with one another. So
I didn't know they were beefing.
Yeah. Now, Whitman is among the most influential poets of the American canon, often called the father of the verse. His works was very controversial in its time, particularly his poetry collection Leaves of Grass, which was described as obscene for its overt sexuality. And that's where I was talking about with Emerson. Not only was it not only was the Leaves of Grass like controversial because of it being overt with its sexuality, but like today, people just jump on this bandwagon and they think that freaking Walt Whitman was gay, all right, because of writing The Leaves of Grass and a few other poems. But I've actually done research into that, okay, and like these people just jump to the assumptions. Like, you ask people who know anything about Walt Whitman and they'll tell you, yeah, you just read his writings and stuff. And the reason why I say that there's no, that he, there, well, I'm not saying that he's not gay, but I'm saying that there's no proof that he was gay. You know what I mean?
That has nothing to do with his writing. Just
well,
like,
his writing is, if you read his writing, you'll, and you don't know what you're reading, you'll get the idea that he is homosexual. Okay. But
I'm just saying, like, if he's a good writer, even if he is gay, he's a good writer. Like, what does his sexuality have to do with his skill set?
yeah.
It'd be different if he was a whack writer lying about being gay and always writing about being gay. Well, you're whack and you're gay, and then you're pretending to not be gay. Just shut up.
Right.
Now, in that case, you shut him up. But if he's just writing, and that's not even the topic of discussion, there's no reason for it to be brought up.
Well, you also have to take the fact that he was into transcendentalism and realism. You know?
So people probably were attempting to attack him, or at least have a way to be able to have something on him. Yeah.
And he was very outspoken when it came to sexuality. Like, and it wasn't about his personal life either. Like, back in the 1800s, they used to have pamphlets, which would be the equivalents of porn today. Okay, and back then, I mean, in today's world, that would be harmless. You know, it was like women in undergarments and stuff. You know what I mean?
Imagine having a flip book through a porn while you're attempting to masturbate. You know, it's like it's like a different scene written on every page. You got to flip through it, and it's just a lady raising up her super long skirt.
Well, Walt Whitman was obsessed with those. You know what I mean? And he actually has like photos where he's sitting at a desk and he's got all these little pamphlets just scattered everywhere. And the reason why he did that is because he believed that people in America and even in Europe, we were sexually repressed. You know what I mean? And
but you remember, that's a pamphlet. A pamphlet is something you read through. I guess I was more so thinking of things they make cartoons on to make them move. And it's just like,
I'm sure they had those too.
With porn. That's funny. Imagine the dick on the last page now.
Like, you got to remember, this was during the 1800s. I'm sure they had that. You know what I mean? Where you just,
that's so wild.
Where you just scroll through it.
But porn in like the 18, like, that's just wild. It's just like, will you not develop us a city? You got other stuff to do. Develop us a city. We don't got time to be jerking your dick off. You know what I'm saying? We still need cities. Cars barely.
But he got to the point too where Emerson was like, man, just calm down. And he could never make it into the transcendentalist groups because he just couldn't give up the whole thing about sexuality. You know, it was very overt. And I even went in and I checked on the whole thing that about people who had written about it, and most people, or every person actually that I found that wrote about him and his sexuality said there's no evidence that he was homosexual, heterosexual. There's no evidence that he even had a girlfriend.
Just a good ass writer.
You know, his sister, who was there at the time of his death, freaking never even wrote or said anything about him having a girlfriend or anything. I mean, there's no evidence whatsoever proving that he was straight or gay. None. Okay. So that's one thing that I did want to say, and I checked that out. I found no evidence to confirm it or say
Deny
it's
it,
not.
renounce it. Yeah.
And like Hemingway, I mean, a lot of people today don't realize Hemingway was gay. I mean, he
Oh
was
no, I didn't know that. Ernest Hemingway.
yeah, he was openly gay.
Nah, I didn't know that at all.
And most people don't. Most people don't even know that, but Hemingway openly told people that he was homosexual. So I mean,
Wow.
that was some things that I actually learned from it, and like they put a statue of Hemingway up in Cuba because he was a national hero and shit, you know what I mean? So, like, that goes back to what I said about, like, in today's world compared to back then, it wasn't really as big of a deal as what everybody makes it out to be. Like, being gay today is a lot bigger of an issue than it was even in the 1800s, so.
They make it seem like it's normal, and I feel like all of this stuff is kind of coinciding with that. Like, pretty much everyone's gay, you should do it. We're understimulated
Yeah.
sexually. Fuck a man, fuck a girl, fuck a bear, whatever, an alligator, whichever floats your boat. Oh man, they just found an alligator in Tampa with somebody inside of its mouth. And I
Oh,
could imagine it
God.
attempting to yeah, but I mean, like, if the alligator didn't find the body, if the alligator didn't find the body and was just eating on it, if it
Uh-huh.
actually killed the person, which was wild because they'd shoot a person if they saw the same exact thing for the person. They gently just redirected it and put it on a ship and relocated. Not a ship, it looked like a ship, but it's one of those like tow truck beds, but it has the alligator on top of it, and they just take it nicely after he killed a man or possibly killed a man. I guess they're going to take it in for questioning or something. But I just think it's wild because if that was a human, there's no way they would have calmly just relocated them. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It just, but yeah, if he didn't though, like I said, that's crazy. If he did kill him, he might not. But I could imagine him attempting to molest the alligator, like I was telling you about. They be doing out here, and that's why the alligator whooped his ass. Like, I don't get down like that. That's probably why they relocated. Like, we understand.
Okay,
We
we better
understand that he
we
black.
better get back to Long Island, man.
Florida,
You-
Florida got too much going on.
We're talking about Walt Whitman. We ain't talking about molesting alligators. No.
It's so funny.
So, Walt Whitman was born on Long Island, and he worked as a journalist, a teacher, a government clerk, and a volunteer nurse during the Civil War, in addition to publishing his poetry. Now, early in his career, he also produced a temperance novel, Franklin Evans, which was published in 1842. Now, Whitman did write that book, but I also want to mention he did not, he didn't follow the temperance movement, you know what I mean? He did it basically for money because he really needed the cash, and he even said that himself, so. Whitman's,
Good to know some stuff just doesn't change.
yeah. Whitman's major work, Leaves of Grass, was published in 1855 with his own money. The work was an attempt at reaching out to the common person with an American epic. He continued expanding and revising it until his death in 1892. After a stroke towards the end of his life, he moved to Camden, New Jersey, where his health further declined. He died at the age of 72, and his funeral became a public spectacle. Whitman's sexuality is often discussed alongside his poetry. Though he is usually labeled as either a homosexual or bisexual, it is unclear if Whitman ever had a sexual relationship with another man. Whitman was concerned with politics throughout his life. He supported the Wilmot Proviso and opposed the extension of slavery generally, but did not believe in the abolitionist movement. And that is also where Whitman split ways with the Transcendentalists, because the Transcendentalists did support the abolitionists. So he just didn't want to be a part of all that. He was anti-war. So he seemed to go according to the early Democrat movements. Whenever, I don't know if you ever heard about the when the Democrats was after the Civil War, and during the Civil War, the Democrats were the ones that were always against war, and they wanted to end the war between the North and the South. And that's kind of his viewpoint on that. So, let's see now.
I didn't read about it. I'm not familiar. Familiar at all.
I actually had a piece on that, but I don't quite know what I did with it. Yeah, I can see if it's in my slip. Yeah, it's not here. Now, in his early life, Walt Whitman was born on May the 31st in 1819, like I said. And he was born in the town of Huntington in Long Island to Quaker parents Walter and Louisa Van Velser Whitman. He was the second of 9 children and was immediately nicknamed Walt to distinguish him from his father, Walt Whitman Sr. Named 3 of his his father also named 3 of his 7 sons after American leaders: Andrew Jackson, George Washington, and Thomas Jefferson. The oldest was named Jesse, and another boy died unnamed at the age of 6 months. The couple's 6th son, the youngest, was named Edward. At age 4, Whitman moved with his family from West Hills to Brooklyn, living in a series of homes in part due to bad investments. Now, Whitman looked back on his childhood as generally restless and unhappy due to his family's difficult economic status. Now, all these writers back then, they always talked that dumb shit, like how poor they were and all that. So, like,
and it made their life. I mean, what do you mean back then? That's
no, I mean, like they were kings of that. That's what I know. They do it now. Don't get me wrong.
Everyone complains about their economic status. I have to be miserable because I don't have money. Especially writers.
Writers are poor.
Writers.
Writers are. I mean, they still do it, but like these were the kings and queens of woe is me. You know what I mean?
And that's why the writing was so depressing.
Yeah, like Emerson, he was really bad about that. Like when he talks about his childhood, he always talks about the traumatic things that happened in his life, you know. And William James, oh my God, dude, that man, all he wanted to talk about for like I'd say in his what was it oh God, I forgot the name of the book now. I keep having these moments, but
you got too much on your mind. At least I've learned that's usually what happens with me.
Yeah, William James did that too. He was always wanting to talk about how freaking he had such emotional traumas and stuff like that, and that especially when they get into the freaking psychology stuff and the philosophy, they start talking about how they learn this stuff so that they could actually help themselves, you know what I mean? And they push that real big, so you'll see that in a lot of these older books where they do that. And it's just, they're just making a plug basically. Like, you know, at the end of the videos when I do my interviews, I ask somebody to give themselves a plug. That's basically what they're doing.
Yeah, like that point of reference, like shout me out. That's their back in the day Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook type,
Yeah. Charles
and
Dickens
YouTube.
even did it. I mean,
Oh, he's another good writer.
Charles Dickens was talking about how he was just bedridden all the way through
Yeah.
his childhood, and they all did that. I think
We
Saint.
didn't even know. I didn't even know Tesla was sick. The scientists were different. I guess because they're more solutionary than they are complainants. Yeah, well, not to the extent, but still, because like we didn't find out Tesla was sick until we did that work. Except
Hmm.
until at the end, you know what I mean? We didn't find out he got sick prior to his death or to the disease, which wasn't even the reason. Supposedly, they said it was pneumonia, but he got hit by a car. No one knows. Anyway, what I was saying is, it's just funny because, like you were just saying, they'll write about this constantly, which means we're reading about it constantly. I can imagine if you read about somebody being sick all the time, you developing and kind of like incorporating and excuse me, inhibiting those type of emotions, type of outcomes. So I mean, once
Yeah.
sick, if they were sick, now you're sick. Yeah, I wonder if they did that purposely. Because back then, I could imagine them being more enlightened
Oh,
than
I
we are.
guarantee you. I guarantee they
Yeah.
did. If they didn't do it on purpose, it was suggested that they do it by
Yeah,
their.
so if they were not going to do it initially, the publicist or the people that were getting them the money so that they could stop crying about being broke, they probably did it because they made us read these
Mhm.
stuff. In school, we were, you know what I mean? That well, in high school, I don't know what they do in school now. It
Well,
seems like not much twerk, but and TikTok. Let me not leave out the TikTok. But I used to have to read these people. That's how I know about them.
mhm.
Hemingway, Emerson, like, and I was in AP, everything, except for math. Math, I wasn't in AP at all, no. But everything else, I did AP, everything, and that's why, like, I know what you be talking about sometimes. And I could imagine if they're purposely depressed and writing about it, them putting it, implementing it, like integrating it into the system in order for us to incorporate those type of emotions and those type of feelings, especially if you're already in a impoverished situation, that could program you to feel like them and then think
Well,
automatically you're gonna do
even
something different.
even now too, though, like whenever they want you to make a summary or they want you to write something about who you are for a book, they want you to tell a little bit of a background story. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So you, I can see that being a part of it too. Like whenever you sit down and they say I'm gonna publish. Well, he published his own books too. That was in it. So that might be something there to look at too. But I'm sure he went according to those general rules. So, but that's something they always tell you. Like whenever you want to write something about the writer, the part where they have the picture of the writer and the summary of the story and all that. They generally have you write stuff. So I could almost bet they said, "Well, tell about the bad stuff too, so people get to know you." You
Right,
know.
right.
So now, one happy moment that he later recalls was when he was lifted up in the air and kissed on the cheek by Marquise de Lafayette during the celebration in Brooklyn on July the 4th, 1825. Now, just so you can understand how old he was or how far back he was, Mary Joseph Paul Yves Roch Galbert du Morte de la Fay, or Marcus de
That's a
la Fay.
mouthful. Yeah.
um, this was a he was known in the United States as Lafayette, and he was a French aristocrat. He was also a Freemason and military officer who volunteered to join the Continental Army, okay, led by George Washington. All right, so this is kind of giving you an idea of what kind of era all this was going on. You know what I mean? Like he was actually as a kid around people who fought during the Revolutionary War, and then after that was able to freaking write stuff until the late 1800s. So he was kind of like the in between. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
He was born during a time period where it was just the end of the American Revolution, and then he lived through the Civil War too. So, and a lot of people don't register. It doesn't register in their head like how close the timing was between those two wars. You know, like there were actually people who were involved in the Revolutionary War. They were really old, don't get me wrong, but they were still alive during the Civil War. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I had no clue. But I mean, like most of the stuff that you teach in regards to this type of stuff, I learned through you.
Mm-hmm. Now, Lafayette was ultimately permitted to command the Continental Army troops in a decisive siege of Yorktown in 1781. The Revolutionary War's final major battle that secured American independence. Now, after returning to France, Lafayette became a key figure in the French Revolution of 1789 and the July Revolution in 1830, and continues to be celebrated as a hero in both France and the United States. And I learned something from him too, though, but that's for history, but I guess I could mention it. He actually went back and supported the French Revolution and then decided that he was going to come back to the United States and try to recruit people who were Americans into joining the French Revolution.
How much was he paying? I'm just saying, like, where did he get this concept from? Who told him this was a good idea?
Well, needless to say, you know, our congressmen and our Senate members and the president didn't think that was a really nice thing for him to do.
I can only imagine.
And
they took the money instead, and they recruited him. Not just.
That was one of the major reasons why we stayed out of the whole situation with the French Revolution. And besides, it was like a bloodbath. I mean, when they took down the French imperialists, they cut off their heads. If you worked for anything that was related to their government, you were put to death. They cut off with their heads.
Haha, we just read Alice in Wonderland today for our story time. That's so funny. I mean, we set off with their heads. We literally just read that book today.
No.
The kids' version, obviously.
Now, at the age of 11, Whitman concluded formal schooling. He then sought employment due to his family's financial situation. Originally as an office boy for two lawyers and later as an apprentice and printer's devil for the weekly Long Island newspaper, The Patriot, edited by Samuel E. Clemens. Now this is where he finally was able to work under Samuel Clemens, who's Mark Twain. And Mark Twain was edited for the Long Island newspaper that Walt Whitman worked at. Here Whitman learned about the printing press and typesetting. He may have written sentimental bits of filler material for occasional issues. Clemens aroused controversy when he and two friends attempted to dig up the corpse of Elias Hicks to create a plaster mold of his head. Clemens left the Patriot shortly after, possibly as a result of the controversy. And Elias Hicks was a traveling Quaker minister from Long Island, New York. In his ministry, he promoted unorthodox doctrine that led to controversy, which caused the second major schism within the Religious Society of Friends, the first caused by George Keith in 1691. Elias Hicks was the oldest cousin of the painter Edward Hicks. Now, he was also an anti-slavery activist, and in his early life, they say that he was born in Homestead, New York, in 1748, the son of John Hicks and Martha Hicks, who were farmers. He was a carpenter by trade. In his early 20s, he became a Quaker like his father. On July the 2nd, 1771, Hicks married a fellow Quaker, Jemima Seaman, at the Westboro Meeting House, and they had 11 children, only 5 of whom reached adulthood. Hicks eventually became a farmer, settling on his wife's parents' farm in Jericho, New York, in what is now known as the Elias Hicks House. There he and his wife provided, as did other Jericho Quakers, free board and lodging to any travelers on the Jericho Turnpike, rather than have them seek accommodations in taverns for the night. Now, when I started checking into this stuff, it kind of goes back to something that I ran into with Walt Whitman too, like, how we see not Jersey, but what is it, Manhattan, with the buildings, and it's just a huge freaking island with all these buildings on it.
Right, yeah.
Back then, they didn't even have none of that. They had like stagecoaches, and there was like 2 freaking villages, one on one side of the island and one on the other, and a stagecoach would go in between both of them, and halfway there they would stop and pick up riders and then follow through to the next village on the other side. I thought that was kind of cool. So that's how far back Walt Whitman goes, you know what I mean? So I wanted to mention that, and I also was going to discuss something that I'm not going to read about, but it was when it comes to him and war, the reason why he was really anti-war was because of an incident that happened with his brother. One of his brothers was reported dead during the Civil War. So he took up shop basically and traveled south to try to find out information, see if his brother was still alive or if he was dead, and at least, claim his brother's belongings in his body. And when he headed that way, he ended up losing his freaking wallet with all of his money, and he had to walk. And as he was walking through there, he was trying to find information out about his brother and maybe talk to higher ups to see what had happened. And during that whole time, he started seeing all the people who were injured in the conflict, and he finally did find his brother, who was okay. He had like a injury to his head, I believe it was, but after that it affected him so much that he never returned to England. He went to Washington D.C., where he ended up taking jobs as like clerks and stuff, and I think he got a government job too, but on the side he volunteered as a nurse in the military hospitals, and he ended up writing a book about it. So that's one of the reasons why he was against war, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to mention that. And what do you think?
What's your favorite work by
Huh?
I was gonna ask you, what's your favorite Walt Whitman work? You gonna read something?
Well, I could, But
I think you should. It goes with the context. I mean,
yeah,
I don't really know much to think. I'm just learning. I'm just absorbing. I don't really have an opinion on someone else's life. To me, you're just telling me about this person. So it's not really much to like that. I mean, that's his life. So he's not really nothing
yeah,
to comment. He's not standing on anything, you know. But
yeah,
I'd love to hear, you know what I mean, your favorite though. If you have a favorite, if not, you don't have a favorite, then I guess not. But I
yeah.
feel like that would go.
I've got it.
Okay.
I can do it. Actually, I had it on there, but I didn't want to bore people with poetry and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you falling in love with me.
Oh, it might be a little too late for that,
Oh,
Mister.
Dr. Thunder.
I was gonna say, now hold on. You're doctor, you're chocolate. You don't know who you want to be. You
Oh, hell.
chocolate thunder,
No,
you're
I'm
Doctor
Mr.
Thunder, you're
Rogers now.
something.
I'm
Oh
Mr.
yeah, that's right,
Rogers now.
Mr. Roger. And then what was the other one? Lightning. You said your brother used to be him
Yeah,
though, and so you couldn't be.
he was, uh, no, he was Thunder. He was freaking, something Thunder. It was his gaming name, I remember.
Yeah, you told us yesterday, I think it was, and that's
Uh,
or Saturday. But
no,
we had to go. Oh,
let
he
me,
did.
let me find his, I've got to find it. Oh, man. I had it too. I ended up closing it up. Okay. Yeah, here it is. No, actually, that's not it. Maybe I put it down at the bottom. Oh, okay. There was actually a few of them that I like. But here's one. It's called "Song of Myself." Now, this is one of the book or the poems that he wrote that got a lot of controversy. So here you go. It goes, I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and I invite my soul. I learn and loaf at my ease, observing the spear of summer grass. My tongue, every atom of my blood, formed from this soil, this air. Born here of parents, born here from parents the same, and their parents the same. I know 37 years old in perfect health began, hoping to cease not till death. Creeds and schools of abeyance, retiring back a while sufficed as what they are, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad, I permit to speak at every hazard. Nature without check with original energy. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself, and I know, and I like it. No, and I know it, and I like it. The distillation would intoxicate me, also, but I shall not let it. But I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth it is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become disguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath echoes, ripples, buzzed, whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark covered sea rocks, and of hay in the barn. The sound of the belched words of my voice lucid to the eddies of the wind. A few light kisses, a few embraces reaching around arms, the play of light in the shade of the trees as the supple boughs wag. The delight alone or in the rush of the street or along the fields and hillsides. The feeling of health. The feeling of health, the full noun trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourselves, or yourself. I have heard what the talkers were talking, the talk of the beginning and the end. But I do not talk of the beginning nor the end. There was never any more inception than there is now, nor any more youth or age than there is now, and will never be any more perfection than there is now, nor any more heaven or hell than there is now. Urge and urge and urge, always the procreant urge of the world. Out of the dimness, opposites equals advance, always substance and increase, always sex. And there he goes, he's talking sex. Always a knit of identity, always distinction, always a breed of life. To elaborate is no avail, learned and unlearned feel that it is so. Sure as the most certain sure plumb in the upright, well centralized, braced in the beams. Stout as a horse, affectionate, haughty, electrical, I and this mystery, here we stand. Oh wow, this is huge. This is huge. This is like the whole book. So.
Oh, hold on. You mean?
Yeah,
That's not a good stopping point though. So keep going.
No, it's not a good stopping point. I just have to kind of
readjust, take a breath. Would you like some water?
No, it says, clear and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Lack one, lack both, and the unseen is proven by the seen, till that becomes unseen and receives a proof in its turn, showing the best and dividing it from the worst. Age vexes age, knowing
okay.
Huh?
I was just gonna ask you a question. When you listen to what he's saying, what do you hear? Cause like, what do you envision, or do you just read the words, or do you kind of envision a scene based off of what he's saying? Because like he's talking about like being embraced, and just like I was just wondering, like
you see that, okay, and you hear that, and like back then and even today, people think that that's innuendos for like sexual
homosexual content. Yeah.
Okay, but you also have to realize, like right up here, what he's basically doing, is the way I understood it, is he's influencing you with both the masculine and the feminine. You know what I'm saying? So he's in this poem. He's telling you masculines in his writing as well as the feminine side. So it's kind of combining into two. You know what I mean? Like, you know what the masculine meaning to a word is compared to the feminine, right?
Yeah, like in Spanish, it's like an O to an A, or you know what I mean.
No.
Usually, right? You mean something different.
He did that, and then like up before he was, he said, "I shall not look through. No, you shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them for yourselves." Now, right there, he's telling you, you know,
You don't have to listen to me.
you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anybody else.
Figure
Judge
it out
for
on your
yourself.
own. I'm just telling you what I got going on. The same thing as me. I wonder if I'm gay on a gay writer on the low. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just kidding.
And he says, "You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left." Now, that right there kind of reaches out to the kind of life that I've seen that they wrote about with him. You know what I mean? Like, he was a very personal person. He didn't really let people know his business. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I understand.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's literally no evidence proving for or against the fact that he is or isn't homosexual. I mean,
Yeah, but his writing is really like, you made me interested in what you were reading, just because I mean the way he put those words together, whether he's gay or not, what difference does it make? You know what I
right.
mean? Like, why it'd be different if he was like, I mean, he's not even talking about his sexuality in his writing. These people nowadays have flags outside their home. You gotta wear red, white, and
Well, he
whatever the
mentioned
color
sex.
was.
He mentioned sex one time
But he
so
doesn't
far.
say there's a dick penetrating my ass. It's different, you know
Well,
what I mean? Like, oh, I love the way he
but
freaking
you
cream
know
pies me. He's not saying that. So I'm
that's.
serious.
I mean,
He's
that's
beautiful
kind of what I'm
writing, man.
getting at. He's not. He's not. It's
Yeah,
not
he's
even a
not.
point. I mean, and
They're just
there's.
haters, freaking
There's.
haters, man.
Oh, I mean, today, even today, everybody just they have this assumption like he was homosexual. I mean, and they've had people debating this stuff for the last freaking 150 years. You know.
You were
And,
reading Leaves of Grass?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's Song of Myself, really, and Song of Myself is really long. I mean, it's huge. So that's a pretty deep story there. Now he also has the Calamus. It's it's the one that a lot of people say, just point blank, says that it's like the rhetorical prehistory of the first gay American, and it's just a load of shit. You know what I mean? Like, they're using the Calamus as an example for him supposedly being gay, which, you know, if you take that as being gay, then freaking you can come up with your own assumptions on it. But like I said, there's no evidence proving for or against. If anything, what I've found was he was actually he didn't engage in sex. You know,
Mm.
so that's basically what I got from all of
Or he
that.
just did not broadcast it because, like, you know, it's okay to have a life that does not tell everyone about what your sexual activities.
Yeah,
I know. That's like lame, but still, it's
yeah. It is an interesting story. Walt Whitman is, I mean, he's more controversial than what Samuel Clemens was, and Samuel Clemens was pretty outspoken. He used to get run out of towns. Yeah.
For what? For just for his writing?
His writing. He would get in those he'd get behind those printing presses and just start spreading gossip, saying that frickin' this was happening and that was happening. And
was it gossip or was it true?
And then it was gossip.
Was it telling true?
I mean, it was just straight gossip. He was doing it to stir people up, and it would get to the point where frickin' he had to get out of town, or somebody's going to end up killing him.
No. Did someone kill him? Is that how he died?
No.
The university back to the people telling him.
He actually, I believe that's probably the reason why he stopped using the name Samuel Clemens and started using Mark Twain.
People still knew it was him.
Yeah. Well, you know Huckleberry
Especially
Finn.
the ones that wanted to kill him.
You know Huckleberry Finn and all that, right?
Yeah.
Tom Sawyer.
Tom Sawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's who I'm talking about.
I know.
He's a wild man.
If people know I know, then it kind of takes very much. I have to act like, oh, wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
that's why you love me though. Like, what would you do? Like, help me every hour. You need 1 hour of me a day at least. You get your fix and then you keep on working.
But yeah, I think we've got quite a bit of stuff here. If you wanna, because it's at an hour and 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we covered.
You're at 6:06 and I'm at 7:07. Yo, that's so dope. That's so interesting to me.
Now, before we get off here, I do want to also say that next week we are going to have Disney Magic Zach back to tell the story of Walt Disney in his perspective. And
he's telling it at the regular time, like this time.
That's going to be on Thursday. That it's pre-recorded. If anybody wants to join in on that, they can. I'll put the Jitsi down and announce that it's going to be done, but it won't be streamed until next week.
And it's Thursday at 5 my time then?
For the recording. But the stream won't happen until tonight, next week.
But if I have questions, I got to come on Thursday at 5 my time. And then that's cool because you do Tech Talk at... No.
Tech Talk is going to be afterwards. So, like, we are going to be doing I'll have the information specifically, but we'll be doing the interview right around like 2 or 3 your time. Okay. And then after that, I'll go into Tech Talk. So we can get that taken care of. And after that, I also want to mention that you are getting interviewed by Zach on the Magic
21st, which is Saturday.
Magic Disney Zach podcast, and that's going to be coming up. So he's going to be questioning you about stuff like with when you were working for Disney and the fact that you live real close to him, and kind of getting some good information from you on that, I guess. So
sounds good.
We're both gonna have a busy week.
It does sound like that, and I love your hustle. I like staying around you to get some of that energy, so because there's this guy.
You're doing great.
There's this guy I wanted us to get an interview with,
yeah.
But I'm looking for him before I have us to get the interview with him because I don't know. They say he disappeared, and but it's just wild. I told you yesterday a little bit, but I don't want people to take our ideas, so I'm going to tell you right now.
Don't worry about it. Nobody watches this stuff, man.
You're right. You'd be surprised. But no, seriously, because there's this guy, he flipped out of if this guy goes missing because I tell you, see, I'm not supposed to, I cannot tell you on the radio.
Okay. We'll keep it top secret, and then we'll talk about it when
we're not on record, before you record, when you're not streaming, because I want to tell you, because I really, cause like I think he'd
It
be great
sounds
for the
like
interview. I think he was paranormal and like
you
type
were
the
talking
way.
to me about him yesterday, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said he might be good for our strangeness show, and he'd even
Oh.
be good for Wonderful World of Weirdness. Like, and I've been looking for him, but they say he disappeared, and it's wild because the circumstances surrounding his
Mm-hmm.
disappearance is just like, man. But I was looking for him because when I saw what happened, what kind of interested me in him, he kind
Mm-hmm.
of just like it just I was like, wow, he'd be great for Wonderful World of Weirdness and our strangeness topic. Wow, we might get an
I,
interview. So I searched for him, and they say he disappeared, and that makes it even stranger. So it's like,
yeah,
oh, I don't want to be responsible, so I'm just gonna keep. You know what I
but
mean? I want to look for him. If I find him, I'll let you know. If not, we'll just watch it.
we're gonna we're gonna be able to hear what you have to say about Disney World too, and that's pretty cool.
It's been years, but I know it. I know it. And wait, can I say
And
my true experience
well, not well, yeah, right, not
from
right
working
now. You
too?
gotta
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah, yeah.
wait
But for
until
that,
you're
yeah.
at the interview. You can't give away the goodies until you're there. You gotta
I,
like this right here is us. Okay, but you gotta wait until you're like
yeah,
there
I got you on
exact.
Saturday. I got to be ready on focus. I
You
got
don't
you.
you don't want people to know your secrets, then they'll never show up for your podcast.
Yeah, there's no reason to. And he got the big bill podcast. So I got to be on
Yeah.
point. So I don't have to show myself though because the podcast. Nice. I got you.
So,
Okay.
um,
Thank you.
and another thing too, do you want to tell people that you have an
No.
official gamer naming now?
Oh yes, yes I do. I do. Karma Cat, and I have my avatar, and she's dope. She's a cat with vampire teeth, so you can already just take the symbolism however you have to. It's great. I love it. I like it, and it's me. And she's purple,
Mm-hmm.
and she's purple, and she has her third eye, and it's red, like a laser. And yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you so much, Rapid, and yeah, let's get it.
And
Let's
she
get it.
is now a member of Team Retro on
Oh, and I
Nostalgia
have a lasso.
Gaming.
I apologize. I had to let you. And I have a lasso because I'm.
Yeah.
Yes. And she has two ponytails. She's so cute. I love her.
So
She's so sweet.
she's gonna be doing retro games with me and Rapid Glitch on Nostalgia Gaming Retro. So expect to see her there, and me as well as Rapid Glitch, who eventually I'll get him back on here too on one of the videos. So you got anything else you want to say?
See you tomorrow. Thank you for everything. Have a good night and be safe.
You too, and see you guys later.